Behind the Shades.
How many people are going to find it difficult to accept and understand their sexuality? Because I believe sometimes we look at it, I know I did, that once I began to ask myself certain questions, I began to understand a lot more versus just accepting what was being told to me. And by example of that is, as I was growing up, I was like, okay, I'm a heterosexual male because this is what I'm attracted to. But then I began to
Hmm.
understand is, okay, how am I attracted to women? What about women that are attractive to me? So I began to ask these questions, whereas some people, they must probably just go through life and think, well, you know what? That's a nice piece of ass. I like it. As simple, as basic as that. Is it more complex, or is it that for some people it's like this and for some people it's literally just a nice piece of ass?
Well, I think that every human is complex, right? But I also think that there are there is a majority, there is like a common narrative that really makes sense for a lot of people, right? Like for example, if you were a vegetarian, right, and you knew in your heart you're a vegetarian, and everyone around you saying cheeseburgers are great, don't you like cheeseburgers? You might even eat cheeseburgers. You might even go, okay, fine, I'll choke it down. Everybody says I'm supposed to, so I'm going to do it. And then when you get older and you have a greater strength of spirit and character, you go, you know what? I really never liked cheeseburgers and I'm going to stick with, my salad or whatever, right? And I think it's that way for a lot of people in their sexuality, where their narrative is not supported by the common experience, right? I mean, gay people, bisexual people, they're just not represented in sex education. They're not I mean, they're more represented in popular culture now, but it used to be like a total secret. Like you couldn't be famous and be gay, or you'd be unhireable, right? Um, but it's less so now, but you know, I think it's more challenging for people whose gender experience and whose sexuality experience doesn't fit the narrative. But there's also opportunities that those people get that, let's say, straight and cis people don't by default get. They don't get that what is gender question. They don't get that what is sexuality question because they don't need to question it. You don't. I mean, you could have always just said, "And ass is ass," and I'm happy with that, right? But you chose to think a little deeper. But a lot of people, they just don't have to think deeper because it's just not that important, or their narratives fit. And so, there's a whole host of challenges that people in the LGBTQIA plus community are facing that can be really informative, but also can feel really isolating to have to think about these things when it feels like nobody around you has to think about them.
I will agree with that because there's some things that, even as you mentioned, as a heterosexual straight male, um that I wouldn't necessarily openly discuss, right? And that's me being part of a part of a demographic that is quite large in numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Forget skin
Yeah.
color, culture, or anything like that. Like just the number of heterosexual male, it's a large number. Whereas if I was, let's say, someone a part of that community who was bisexual, who was gay,
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't maybe as an extrovert as I am, it's more so you're in your own echo chamber where you're thinking, okay, this is something that is not better now, but it wasn't historically part of the mainstream conversation. The narrative was very hush hush, or in a lot of ways negative, and you just keep it to yourself, and you feel like everything that you do, everything that you're attracted to, isn't what some people deem right or appropriate. And you may go from experimenting thinking, I like this, but maybe fitting in is more important. So I'm going to have that cheeseburger. I'm going to
Mm.
forego what I truly know is right for me just so I can fit in and be part of the narrative, because being part of the narrative is attractive in a lot of ways. What do you think?
It is. It's empowering, right? I mean, it's disempowering a lot of times to have to break from that mold, and you know, it's tremendous to sort of say, oh well, I'm going to be part of the smaller group. That can be a tremendous challenge, and then you can also get pressure from people, um, that are part of that group that says, "I just fake it, just fit in," like huh, I don't want to put anybody in particular on the spot, but I had, somebody who I'm related to who was like, just keep it all a secret. Like, why do you have to talk about it? Why do you have to tell me? And they're religious, right? I personally, I keep my religious experiences to myself, right? I don't need anybody. I don't want to be religious in a room with people. I just want to have my own personal religious experiences. And so this like sitting in a room and dunking a baby in water and like what are you talking about? Why do I have to go? Why do you have to share that with me? And so this it's totally arbitrary what we consider obscene and what we consider commonplace. And it's really frustrating when people who have the privilege of having all of their things be accepted would rather you just be quiet because it makes them uncomfortable. I mean, be uncomfortable and let people live, please.
And that part is so unfair because they're using what I would say their privilege of being part of that group of people that, for the most part, they're accepted, and kind of throwing it back in the face of other people. And what people have to understand is that for me, my line is either you're going to talk about everything sexual or you're going to talk about nothing sexual, right? That's equal.